The resistance school is, as far as I understand it, about developing techniques and skills for not only communicating, but organizing and mobilizing. And it doesn't necessarily, and it's not necessarily, shouldn't be limited to one particular goal. Many of you have slightly different goals, and what we're going to be talking about is tools that really, ideally, are going to be helpful to you. And what I'd like you to do as I go through them is ask yourself what works. What do you think works? What doesn't seem to be working? Have you tried something like this and it has worked or it hasn't worked? What's most valuable to you about what I am saying? What have you seen? In other words, your own experiences are enormously valuable. I want everybody to be able to draw on your experiences. And I should also say, it probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, I don't have the answers. I mean, I have some clues. I've been at it, probably looking out at you longer than most of you have been at it. I'm getting pretty old. I've also, as a matter of advocacy across the lines, that is, I am a Democrat, I've served in Democratic administrations, I've worked with a lot of Republicans, I've worked with a lot of conservatives. I would not express my politics necessarily and my political values as conservative. They are more progressive. But I have worked a lot and tried a lot in my lifetime to work with people that have very different viewpoints than I have. Sometimes I've been successful, sometimes I have been enormously unsuccessful. So I'm here to sort of give you a sense of both what I've learned and also listen to you and find out what you have learned and make sure that you share what you have learned. So we're going to go, as Christian said, we're going to go for a little while with regard to a presentation. I also want to credit and introduce you to Sasha Lightman, who's there in the back. Sasha, put up your hand. Who has been very, very helpful in preparing this presentation. And we worked together, Sasha and I, and a fellow named Jay Kornbluth, in something that we call inequality media. The reason we created this not-for-profit has a lot to do with my conclusions over the years that it's not simply enough to write books or to stand up and talk to somebody or to give a speech. You really do have to reach people in a lot of different ways. And so that I have been experimenting for years now with different kinds of media. And I want to share with you what I've learned with regard to those media. What else can I say in introduction? It actually started about 5 years ago. I have a son, one of my sons, who was running something called collegehumor.com. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
I had never heard of it. I'm very very glad that you've heard of it. But Sam Reich, came to me about 5 years ago and he said, Dad, I know, you've been in government, you've been on the outside, you've been an advocate, you've written books, you've written articles, you've written op-eds, you've done a lot of stuff. That's all great. But you gotta really, if you want to reach people, you've got to be a little bit more flexible and open and try a lot of other vehicles as well. And I was depressed for about 2 weeks because, I've written a lot of books. And my books are the kind of books that once you put them down, you can't pick them up. Actually, quite seriously, I was at a number of years ago, I was at a party and I saw the first book I ever wrote on the shelf of the person who was giving the party. And I said, I'm so honored that you actually have the first book I've ever written in hardback on your shelf. I mean, that's extraordinary. I didn't know anybody had it on their shelf. And he looked abashed, looked a little embarrassed. And I said, well, don't be embarrassed. It's great. And he said, you ought to pull it out and open it up. And I did. I pulled out that book, still with its fresh cover on it, and I opened it up, and the entire inside had been hollowed out. He had bought it as a safekeeping device on the theory that nobody would ever pull it out. It was a very good place to keep valuables. So I'm still writing books, and I'm still writing op-eds, and I'm still doing everything else I was doing before. But the most important thing that we, and I'm saying we because Sasha and Jake, it's really a team, have been doing, is not just the videos and the movies and stuff, it's also a set of arguments. It's kind of a theory about argumentation, and it's a theory about tone, and it's also a theory about motivation. And that's really the three pieces of what I'm going to talk to you about. 1, argument, 2, tone, and 3, motivation. It's not just media.